It all started in the bustling city of Brenton, a place where money moved faster than people could keep track of it. Skyscrapers stood like glass titans over the streets, reflecting the constant motion below. The air carried a cocktail of ambition and exhaustion, where million-dollar deals could be made over lunch and fortunes lost by dinner. Beneath the glimmering skyline, however, lived another Brenton, one where shadows had their own economy. In the quiet corners of cafes and the backrooms of bars, whispered deals and invisible crimes flowed through the same financial arteries that kept the city alive. One of the city's more invisible predators was Leonard "Len" Mercer. On the surface, Len was the sort of man you'd trust with your retirement fund. A respectable middle-aged accountant. He dressed conservatively, spoke politely, and had the kind of mild presence that made him easy to forget. People liked Len. They called him reliable, trustworthy, the kind of guy who'll never do you wrong. But those people didn't know the real Len. Beneath that polished exterior was a man who'd turned deception into an art form. For years, Len had been running an almost elegant scam, stealing in increments so tiny they were practically invisible. A few dollars from one account, a couple of cents from another, all rerouted into bank accounts he controlled through a maze of fake businesses. Individually, no single theft was enough to raise suspicion. Most people would never even notice. But Len wasn't thinking small, he was thinking scale. When you skim from hundreds of accounts, those invisible cents snowball into thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And Len was painfully careful. Each fake business had a matching set of falsified invoices. Every bank transfer was cloaked in legitimate-seeming paperwork. His ledgers balanced so perfectly that even the most experienced auditors would leave impressed. For nearly a decade, Len's system was flawless. He'd watch the stolen money funnel quietly into offshore accounts while maintaining the perfect image of a modest, overworked accountant. Until one Tuesday morning. That day, Len sat at his desk in his modest downtown office. Rain slid down the windows in thin silver lines, the soft patter mixing with the low hum of his desk lamp. He had another transfer to make, routine by now. The shell company in question was Barton & Cole Consulting. Of course, it wasn't real. On paper, it looked like a boutique business advisory firm. In reality, it was a name Len had pulled from thin air and attached to an account only he could access. The funds, $37,852 this time, were to be routed through 3 different accounts before vanishing overseas. Easy. But as Len typed the transfer details into the bank's portal, his finger slipped. Instead of Barton & Cole, he typed Barton & Cold. One extra letter. Len didn't notice. Why would he? His hands knew this process as well as a pianist knows their favorite song. He clicked confirm and leaned back in his chair, already thinking about what to have for lunch. Another job well done, he thought. But here's the thing. Barton & Cold wasn't just a made-up name. By sheer coincidence, it was the actual name of a small HVAC repair business across town. The next morning, Derek Holman, owner of Barton & Cold, logged into his business account over coffee. He almost spat his drink when he saw the number on the screen. His account, which usually hovered just above zero after bills and payroll, now showed an extra $37,852. Derek wasn't the kind of man to believe in lucky breaks. In his 22 years of fixing air conditioners and heaters, money like that had never shown up without a catch. Unexpected money, he muttered, is just somebody else's problem finding you. He called the bank immediately. The fraud department froze the funds and flagged the transaction. Large, unexplained sums weren't something they ignored. And in the banking world, possible fraud was just a half step away from call the cops. Within hours, the case landed on the desk of Detective Eva Monroe from the Financial Crimes Unit. Eva was sharp, methodical, and had the calm patience of someone who'd seen every kind of scam imaginable. She knew one truth about fraudsters. They're human, and humans make mistakes. When she saw Barton & Cold listed in the transaction log, her instincts flared. The name didn't match any vendor records, and there was no history of business between the payer and Derek's HVAC company. She dug deeper, tracing the origin of the funds back to a corporate account belonging to a well-known client. A client that had never sent money to Barton and Cold. That meant someone was moving money where it didn't belong. Here's where it got interesting. Eva began combing through that corporate account's transaction history. It wasn't the big payments that caught her attention. It was the small ones. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of transfers to vaguely named companies like Eastman Advisory, Kepler Strategies, Crownwood Partners. All in modest amounts. All suspicious. She knew the names were probably fake. But without a direct link to a suspect, they were just shadows. That link came from the Typo. By subpoenaing bank records for Barton and Cold, she traced the mistaken payment back to a shell account. That account was registered quietly and sloppily to Leonard Mercer. Once she had Len's name, the rest fell apart quickly. She followed the trail through offshore accounts, fake invoices, and years of carefully hidden theft. The total? Nearly $2.4 million stolen over 8 years. And all of it undone by a single misplaced letter. The day of the arrest, Len was at his desk, sipping coffee, reviewing yet another spreadsheet. When officers walked in, he didn't even resist. "You know what got you caught?" Eva asked, as she clicked the cuffs over his wrists. Len gave a dry smirk. "A rookie mistake?" "No," she said. "A letter D." The case made headlines. The press loved it. $1 million fraudster brought down by Typo. People were stunned that a man so precise could be undone by something so small. Eva, though, wasn't surprised. She told reporters the same thing she'd told rookies at the academy for years. In the world of crime, it's never the big moves that bring you down. It's the little ones you never see coming. And so, Leonard Mercer's legacy wasn't one of brilliance, but of irony. A man who built his empire on flawless precision, only to lose it all because of one stray finger on a keyboard. In Brenton, the story became a warning. To criminals, it was a reminder of how fragile perfect can be. And to everyone else, proof that sometimes justice doesn't need a big break, just a small one.